Shalom, it's your brother Malcolm from the GMS branch in Chicago. And I'd like to first and foremost give all thanks, glory, and honor, praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. In the Hebrew it would be called Halal, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Double honors unto the apostles of GMS, all right, who are the true elders of all Israel on earth today. And salutations to the Akim on the four corners of the earth that are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and freedom to do so. And salutations to the scattered confusion of faith, Israelites, and to the Akwaf, the few of you who are watching and learning. To you, I say shalom. It's going to be a quick sit down as a response to just the portion that I watch. It's really hard to stomach. I watched documentary of the killing of Jesus. First off, let's make these, everything I'm going to tell you that I'm going to speak upon can be researched. All right. I'm not speaking opinion. I'm speaking facts. All right. The letter J is the most newly created letter in the alphabet. All right. Which came about in 1634 AD. All right. Shortly after the King James Bible was printed. Okay. And I actually have a couple King James Bibles, and you can go and research it. Open up a King James Bible and you will not find a letter J in it. You'll find an I in every place where there's supposed to be a J. Okay? So that fact in itself cuts the name Jehovah and it cuts the name Jesus. So those were not, and cannot be the name of the Heavenly Father and His Son. I just want to get that out right away. Okay, but I watched it, and I'm just going to read the notes that I wrote on things that I watched maybe the first 35-40 minutes of it. And I'm going to try to stomach it, the whole thing. But one thing that I know for sure is just from what I have, it's going to be very edifying. And the biblical Edomites, okay, which is the so-called white man here on earth today, they're blasphemers and they're liars, man. Okay, but here we go. It comes on, and Herod is dying. Okay, and he was told in a dream by the voice of Isaiah, who is John the Baptist. Okay, that he would be destroyed and his seed will be destroyed. So right there, the Christian doctrine is admitting that there is a group of people who's going to be the seed, because Herod is an Edomite. All right. The Herodians were Romans. You know, what you refer to as Europeans today, the seed, the eagle, you know, the Herodians were Romans. They were set up by the royal families, by the Caesars. Okay. And they were set up to be rulers over and governors over the Israelites, over the Jews, which made up Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And there was heavy contention, okay, between the Israelites and the Herodian leaders. Okay. And so they set a difference. They let you know. All right. And I'm going to go into this book, which is written by William Beeston, okay? And it's a reprint of a book from 1853, all right? The Roman Empire of the Edomites. I've done extensive sit-downs on this book. It's one of my favorites, but and here it is. It's of William Beeston of the Honorable Society of Lincoln's Inn, and sometime of the Queen's College, Cambridge, London. George Cox, 18 King Street, Covent Garden, 1853. So there's all that information there. Okay. So this is a Cambridge scholar. Okay. An Edomite Cambridge scholar. Now there's a lot of information that I can go into. I probably will go into this book and do a sit down again. Because when my first page was lost, they deleted a lot of these videos that had this information on it. I wonder why. A lot of my videos got deleted, but this being one of them. But I'm just going to read page 9 because page 9 is one of the most crucial pages in this book. I'm going to start the top of 8, actually. It said, Numitor, the 15th from Aeneas, being the last king, Romulus and Remus, the grandson of Numitor, resolved to build a town upon the hills where they lived as shepherds. And Remus being slain, Romulus laid foundation of that city, which was one day to give law to the world. It was called Rome. All right. So we already know the story of when Alexander, the Macedonian, an Edomite, all right, because you can trace back his father, Alex, through the scriptures, through the Bible, back to Amalek, who was a grandson of Esau, who was actually who the Herodians were. All right. You know, Edomites. Okay. And they were following the Talmudic things. You know, they became Jewish. Okay. So you had the Jewish thing even way back then. The Talmud had a presence even during the time of the Lord, man. All right. But this is chapter, page 9. It said, unspeakable then must our atonement be when we perceive that the grand secret was certainly discovered, and the disclosure more than 1,200 years ago that the true answer of the question, whence came the Romans, may have been returned and even registered in writing before the birth of Hamashiach, that response proceeded neither from Greek nor Roman, all right, but from the despised Jew. So the Jew was where the Romans came from. That it has been preserved to us in Jewish targums, that it exists amidst the fables and impieties and absurdities and blasphemies of the Jewish Talmud, which it is, and that is the lawgiver, the basis of what all rabbis today study under. And that it may be comprehended in these 20 words, the Romans came from Esau, who is Edom, and Italy is Idumea, Rome, the Basra of the Hebrew prophets. Okay, so I'm going to go to Isaiah real quick, the 34th chapter, and read the verses 5 and 6. So this is Isaiah 34, verses 5 and 6, and it reads, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, upon the people of my curse to judgment. The sword of the Lord is filled, or the sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fats and the fat of kidneys of rams. For Yahweh have a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And if you research Idumea and the eagle in Rome, it's going to tell you that those were the Romans and they're the Europeans of Europe. All right? Can't get around that. So that tidbit of information is out the way. All right. And then there was a Pharisee, getting back to the story. There was a Pharisee, the one who was in charge, a Levite, who lied to Herodian and said prayer could heal Herod of the dreams, of the phantoms, and of the destruction and basically the Pharisee appeased Herod to keep power. He was a sellout, okay? And that voice, like I said, that voice that he heard was Isaiah's, which Yahushua says in the New Testament. I can't recall the scripture off the top of my head, but he told them that there was no greater prophet than John the Baptist, and John the Baptist was Isaiah, fulfilling the scripture. Okay? All right. Then you had a Levite who came to visit Herod. Okay? And he spoke of the Davidic prophecy of Isaiah about Yahushua being born. And Herod gives, and that can be found in Isaiah the 11th chapter, which I've been doing a lot of extensive reading of that chapter in particular as of late. But yeah, that's in Isaiah. I'm pretty sure it's 11. It says a stem of Jesse. It's either 10 or 11. I'm pretty sure it's 11. Just want to be sure. Now that I spoke on it. Yeah, it's definitely 11. The 11th chapter. Right. Speaks all about Yahushua coming. Okay. In the 11th chapter of Isaiah. And Herod gives, and when he hears this, he gives an order that when the child is born, he wants to see it. All right. And then he puts out an order to kill all the male childs of that age. So I think somewhere between 2 to 3 years old, all 2-year-old Israelite childs were put to death. Male children, okay, or sons, okay. And then Joseph flees with Mary. Another thing too is that all the Jewish and all the men that they were showing in the movie were covering up their head, all right, which is not an Israelite custom, okay. And although it is written in the Apocrypha how that was one of the things that they were made to do, they were made to wear hats. So that's where the yarmulke comes in, because the Israelites, man, this is your crown, not the sides. Crown at the top. When a baby is being born, your crown, and you don't come out, the sides of your head don't come out first. The top of your head comes out. That's the first thing that appears in the woman's vagina as the baby is beginning to exit her vagina. And the crown sits on the top of your head, not around. It doesn't sit here. It sits here. Okay? So the crown at the top always have been. So they twist and play with words. You don't make your the size of your head your crown. That's just ludicrous. So the things that they do, the Jewish people do, are completely contrary to the scriptures. Okay. Then it says, and then Herod died. Okay, and his son Antipas now sat on the throne in his place. Okay, and they were speaking Yiddish because there was a Hebrew, a Jew, who came by way of Joseph, and in conversation, he learned that he was a Jew, and he said shalom to him. All right, so there were no long vowels in Hebrew except the letter I. The O, the E, the V, and the A, all those sounds are Edomite sounds, which come from the Latin and the Latin languages, Greek, Spanish, Italian, French. They have all those sounds in those languages. Those were never the sounds. Everything in Hebrew was ga, da, ba, ah. All right. It's the same thing that all babies say when they are born. All right. Because the original and first language was Hebrew. And at the Tower of Babel, the only people to keep that holy language was the Israelites. Okay. But here's I have a gigantic Oxford dictionary. Decided I'd use something different than my other source that I love. It's not as old as the other one. I think this is from the 70s or the 60s. First published in 1933. Yeah. So it was revised in 39 and 47 and 50, 52, 55, 56, 59, 62. So that goes to show you 62, 64, 65, 67, 68, 70, 72, and 73. So the reason why Esau tries to revise books, it was perfect the first time, is because Esau's trying to backtrack and cover up lies. Because, like I always tell you, Akim and Akwafs out there, you want to get your hands on the oldest dictionaries that you can. Anything in the 1930s or older, go by some of those old bookstores, used bookstores, and see if you can find dictionaries that are, that are really old. But let's go look up the word Yiddish. Okay. Okay, this is a big book, boy. Yiddish. It's so big. I'm all right. It says 1886, which is about right, because there was a man by the name of Eleazar ben Yehudi who changed the language, and that is the language that they write and speak today, which is taught in the Jewish schools and over in Israel and in Rosetta Stone. They teach Yiddish and they call it Hebrew, okay? Because what they did was they used the Hebrew characters, the Assyrian script, not the original, because you couldn't have corrupted the original. So they revised it. They used the Assyrian script, and then he added points because he said it was flawed, and that's why the meaning of many words are incorrect and misspelled and that whole sort of thing, because they were revising it to hide information. But here's how it reads. It says Anglicization, all right, Dutch, Jewish, German, the language used by Jews in Europe and America, consisting mainly of German origin from the Middle Rhine era, with the admixture of Balto-Slavic or Hebrew words, and written in Hebrew characters. Okay, so let's see if I can put this close to the camera so that it can be paused and read. All right, let me find it. Put my thumb next to it. There it is. It's right above my finger. Damn it. So, yeah, so you could pause that and read it. So, out of the words of Oxford scholars, is the so-called white man exposed and caught lying again. All right. Next one, it says, so there was a Roman, I didn't even finish watching to find out what his name was, but there was a Roman governor that came in, and he was attacked. They threw shit and rocks at his wife, all right? He was attacked by the zealots, and he was pretty upset. And this governor had Herod Antipater and the Levite priests. He wanted him to have these men brought to him. He wanted blood. He wanted violence, okay? And the zealots basically were like a resistance, kind of like Black Panthers or the Young Lords would be today. Young Lords was a group of mainly Puerto Ricans who basically was against white supremacy and racism, and they took up arms just like the Black Panthers. As a matter of fact, they were joined unto the Black Panthers, and Esau got afraid, and back in that time, and basically they went to go to war with the white man, but they all came back with jobs. That's a joke that was said in the movie, but it's actually true. All right, that's exactly what happened, because Esau appeased them by giving them, he said, well, these people are rousing up and waking up. We need to do something. So, they gave some of them jobs and infiltrated it and destroyed it. All right. But anyway, it said Edomites continue to blaspheme, man, because they by making Edomites play Israelites. That's blasphemy, man. And they wore the hats, and when it got to the whole scene with John knew who Yahushua, but Yahushua didn't know who John was. Of course, Yahushua knew all things to the Spirit. He knew what people were thinking, could read minds. But he gets to John, and he couldn't know. He's asking, how did John know who I was? So let's bring out a scripture. Revelation, because this is Esau's wicked, man. I believe it's 22:18 through 21. Yeah, and it said in the spirit. No, this is Revelation 22:18. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of this prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, Yahweh shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. Okay? And if any man shall take away from the words of this book of prophecy, Yahweh shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written there in the book. Okay? So playing with what's written in this book and changing it to fit your curriculum, your belief, your 501c3 charter so you can get paid, it's, you know, the consequences are going to be heavy, man. It's like these agents that are all bugged out of their mind, calling people up and apologizing and exposing themselves even further, because it's like they they woke up from the demon, all of a sudden realize what they done, but then that demon takes over again and they go right back into that being wicked mode, man. It's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of the living power, man. But this is I'm practically done here. I want to finish. This is actually went longer than I wanted it to, but this is for the Negro question, part 4, the missing link. Okay, and I'm gonna go into this book again, but and do an extensive sit down. But I want to go into a part about a bunch of bodies that were found. Where was it? But there was a guy who found a bunch of bodies. And he did research on them and said that they were all Hebrew slaves. And basically, the statement was made that those bodies were held the same position they held in that the Negroes were in the same position in ancient Egypt as they were today. They were in servitude because it was the 1800s when he found it. Let's just see if I can find it real quick. I should have bookmarked it before I got to here. I think this is it. Yeah, I'll just read this paragraph. But yeah, these basically, he quotes all these different authors and educators of the 1800s who are highly respected among white people. And they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all right, of them that were found. And I mean that wrote different things. And I'll go through it and read them all again. And then he gave you the books that they were written in, the pages where you can find them. So basically he provided all this evidence, the same thing I'm doing now. But this is Professor Hugley, 1870, The Iberian Race, page 332. This is where you'll find it. Okay, Iberian Basque black bones have been found all over Europe with these animals. I have inserted that the writings of the 8 English white historians to show that our white brothers who were closer to the epic center did have a problem telling the truth about the original habits of Europe, and they did. All right, because when Rome fell, the people that took over Welsh, Britain, Irishmen, France, and Russians were all Negroes, were all Israelites. Okay? These Welshmen, Britain, Irishmen, Frenchmen, Russians, Germans, Italians, Swedes were in Europe thousands of years before the English arrived in 449 AD, and this will be proven by the writings of Professor Boyd Dawkins, Professor of Geology of Manchester University, London. And see, things like this get swept under the rug, or not talked about, or put into, it doesn't get used in textbooks in colleges and things of that nature. All right. Professor Boyd Dawkins was invited to speak in the public hall in Manchester, London, January 18th, 1879. And in his lecture, he gives a detailed account of the peoples who originally inhabited Europe. And without blushing, this is what he said. all right, in 1879. Our remote ancestry, pages 95 through 106. Okay? And he was Professor Boyd Dawkins, Professor of Geology, Manchester University, London. All right? The original people of Britain, France, Spain, England were short black men about 5'6". They were in England with our fathers. White English invaded in 449 AD. Our fathers were warlike people who by 607 AD had pushed the Basque west into Wales, Cumberland, Westmore, Highland, and Scotland and Devon. Hence, that's why you get all the black coats of arms. Okay? Which I was trying to see. Well, things of this nature. That somehow disappears from the textbooks. Was never put in textbooks. Because they'll just put forth Renaissance art and show you white people. They don't go to the. They'll show you Renaissance art from the 1500s and apply it to the 4th, 5th century. Don't work like that. It says these black people boasted they were the citizens of the Roman Empire, and they were, because they're the ones that took down Rome. The Welsh of ancient Britain were in possession before the Romans ever came here. The black box of Britain have brought the knowledge of the iron and bronze with them. All right. The iron and bronze technology will be proven perfectly when I show you the German tapestry. These people were herdsmen who possessed short horned ox and horned sheep, pig, goat, pig, and horse. Evidence of their civilization can be seen all over the continent of Europe, as well throughout the British Islands, extended as far as Germany and Switzerland, and even to France and Spain. These black people originated from Iberian Peninsula, all right? That would be what you call Ireland today, okay? And are a fragment of the old Spanish population. They were in France, Spain, Ireland, Britain, and Scotland. One of the techniques that I like to employ when detailing my research is to try to get as close to the point of the event as I can. In this case, Professor Boyd was right, and he mentioned seeing a specimen of a black box from different parts of Europe, and states that if you laid them next to each other, you would not be able to tell one corpse from another. So he was showing you that these corpses all had the same traits, okay? So Esau, you finished, man. You're a liar, you're inexposed, all right? The Israelites were not Edomites, and it's ridiculous for you to keep making that claim that you're Jewish and all that, especially in this time and age. You're exposed. And this is from this is the last thing I'm going to read. This is from the Zondervan's Combat Dictionary Bible. When you go to the definition of Edom, it's very long, and I'm going to go right to the paragraph, the second paragraph from the bottom, and it just simply says Edom figures prominently in prophetic scriptures as a scene of great future judgments. All right. See notably Isaiah 34. I read that 5 and 6. Right. Isaiah 63 and 1. That's because Yahushua is coming to destroy him. It said Herod's vision. What that was, Isaiah was telling him that a seed of Judah was coming to destroy him and his seed. So the whole Edomite race, not just Herod, not just the Romans, but the whole Edomite race is going to get destroyed after they serve the most brutal slavery that mankind is ever going to know. Because that slavery it's going to make the slavery of the Israelites look like a walk in the park. All right. She is the only neighbor of the Israelites who was not given any promise of mercy from what you people in the world ignorantly call God. So with that, I'm going to say all praise, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh Bashem Shai and Shalom.